Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining ARC's Fireside Chat. Today we will be talking about the Hope and Redemption team going statewide, spreading hope and redemption to every institution within the state of California's correctional facilities. So this, not just recently, in the most recent budget, Governor Newsom approved the budget, which included significant funding, which will allow ARC's Hope and Redemption team to expand to 31 institutions throughout CDCR. This will allow us to provide rehabilitative programming in every institution in California. This is huge. I also want to shout out, before I introduce the team that are here, these amazing human beings. Two of these gentlemen are actually on vacation. Two of these gentlemen are on vacation, but leave wholeheartedly in what we're doing, not only being former life prisoners that go back inside, but also taking their vacation time to tap in and share their thoughts with you. So I want to thank you both, Jacob and Cesar, for taking the time out to tune in. Really appreciate you both joining. And with that, I want to introduce Jacob Brevard, Associate Director of Inside Programs, Cesar Zuniga, a life coach for the Hope and Redemption team, normally at Ironwood State Prison, Calipat, and Centinela. Mark Taylor, Hope and Redemption life coach, who is assigned to Pelican Bay State Prison. So he's down to visit us from Crescent City. Dominique Tanks, who is assigned to Lancaster State Prison. And Edwin Paragas, ARC member and graduate of the Hope and Redemption team, graduated at Ironwood Prison. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining the show. And let's get to it. Jacob, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your work at ARC.
Hi, my name is Jacob Brevard, and I'm the Associate Director of Inside Programs for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, also known as ARC. And what I do at ARC is in-reach. We provide character development and self-help programming, rehabilitative programming for the men and women inside so they can regain their freedom and become productive members of society.
Thank you, Jacob. Mark, could you introduce yourself and tell us how you're doing today and tell us a little bit about your work at ARC?
Yes, I'm Mark Taylor. I'm a life coach at Pelican Bay State Prison, as Sam said. We deliver rehabilitative programming into that facility. Today, I'm feeling excellent. We have a HART student who paroled from Pelican Bay this morning. We provided transportation, and I'll be there at LAX to pick him up this evening. So today is a good day.
Thank you, Mark. That's just an example of some of the stuff that we do here at ARC. Cesar, could you introduce yourself? How are you doing today? And tell us a little bit about your work here at ARC.
Hi, my name is Cesar Zuniga. I'm a life coach at ARC. Some of the stuff that I do is the same thing that Jacob and Mark just said, bring self-help rehabilitation groups to prisons. And today I'm great. I'm in Havasu. As soon as this meeting is over, I will be hitting the river and get really, really tan.
And when you have a chance, please find Cesar on Facebook. He posts all these different videos where he's on the river and the ocean doing all kind of amazing stuff. Thank you, Cesar.
Enjoying life.
Dominique, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're doing today? How's your day going? And tell us a little bit about your work here at ARC now.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, my name is Dominique Tanks. I just was paroled in March. I've been 5 years home, 5 months home now. And just recently, I went to Lancaster and visited every facility and met with the MAC reps. And spoke with them and seen essentially what do they need and tell them what ARC is bringing to them. Many of the men was great and thrilled to know that ARC is finally coming to Lancaster Prison. We should be in class by the end of this month, the latest by the beginning of September. So right now I'm ecstatic about it. So from 1 to 10, I'm at a 10 right now. Yeah, thank you, Sam.
I want to highlight something else. If you could bring Dominique's picture back up just for a minute. In the background right there of Dominique, that art, that beautiful, amazing art that's behind Dominique came from the men at Pelican Bay State Prison during our first graduation. So if you have family there, just let them know, like, we're representing you. The art that you send is on the walls in our office. You're always in our thoughts, and we're always supporting you. Edwin, could you introduce yourself? How are you doing today? And tell us, how long ago did you graduate from HART?
Hi. Thank you, Sam. My name is Edwin Paragas, and I graduated in art 2019, the same year I was found suitable. I spent 24 years inside, and I was incarcerated when I was 16. And art, after I graduated, the HART program is probably one of the crucial points that helped me parole and I was found suitable. Now I'm currently working for Healing Dialogue and Action, TPW, and Boundless Project Freedom.
Thank you. So you got 3 jobs. Healing
Part-time.
Dialogues in Action. That's right. Healing Dialogues in Action.
TPW.
Transformative Prison Work Group.
And Boundless Freedom Project. It used to be Buddhist Pathway, BB3.
Don't burn out, brother. We need you to stay in this work.
I know.
Patience. So remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, man. But love that you're immersed in all of these different things.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start off, Jacob, and I'm going to ask all of you these questions. Jacob, I remember back in 2017 when we went into Calipat, it was 113 degrees. I remember the whole day vividly, but I remember we were just starting out, and it was your first time going back in. And since then, you've not only led the team, now you take over managing and leading the team and its expansion. I want to ask you, what is meaningful about the HART expansion and programming coming to all 31 prisons?
But before I go into that, so I just wanted to point out that there's 3 graduates here. Mark is also a graduate of the program, as well as Dominique. And they're out here thriving. I think one of the most meaningful things about the expansion is the ability to provide rehabilitative programming to all the men and women inside, and giving everyone the chance to improve their lives and become productive taxpayer citizens. Second chances, third chances, fourth chances, how many chances it is. I think the system was set up for punishment. Today, with the expansion of HART, it shows a commitment to the rehabilitative programming aspect of the CDCR, and it is an investment into the community because it gives people a chance to improve their lives.
Thank you, Jacob. And you're absolutely right. I often forget sometimes that Mark was a graduate through Ironwood. Dominique was a graduate through Ironwood. Wait a minute, it's a lot of Ironwood. We need some more Soledad, another prison. So, and like all are graduates of Hope and Redemption. But an even deeper and more interesting thing is that we're all graduates of some of the curriculums that we created while inside when we were at Soledad, Cesar, you and I. And so, like, in a sense, we're all graduates of this particular work that we do, not just to bring people home but to make sure that when they come home, they stay home. And the only way they go back into an institution is if they're in a suit and they want to help others. Want to jump to Mark. Could you tell us, for you, what is meaningful about the HART expansion and programming going to 31 prisons now?
Thank you, Sam. I think for me, what's most meaningful is now almost in every prison in the state of California, there will be one formerly incarcerated life coach. And we don't see the men and women in these facilities as inmates. We see them as our community members. And we're going to do what we can to get them home to their families in a safe and responsible manner. And we're highly motivated because at one point we were the individuals in those prison cells. So we have an intimate understanding of that aspect in prison culture, and we're going to do what we can to get our brothers and sisters home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Cesar, for you, what does it mean for this expansion going to all of the institutions in the state of California?
For me, it's very, very meaningful because when we first started doing this work back in 2017, I remember having a conversation with you and Scott and the whole team and saying that the mission for this team was to one day have one member in every prison. I don't know if you remember that, but it was one member in every prison, and it was to shut down some of these prisons, right? And bring as many people home. So it's come to a complete circle, I believe, and it's working, and we're reaching our goals that we set from the beginning, and it's happening. It's happening. So it's extremely meaningful for me. Just to end this, it's 3 Soledads, 3 Ironwoods here. So Just so you know, just so they know that the veterans are here. The youngsters are, they're still picking up our bags at the airport.
You better watch out. I see some gray there, man. I got a bit of gray growing in there too. I think I'm gonna give me some Grecian formula for men. But anyway, Edwin, for you, what does it mean for this expansion? You went through and you mentioned earlier that being found suitable, part of that came from what you learned in these classes. Could you share what does it mean for you to see this expand to all the prisons in the state of California?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Before I get into like how it helped me with being suitable, I just want to say I don't think meaningful is not a strong word. I think it's impactful. First of all, because getting a contract from CDC validates what HART does. I mean, because of our integrity, because the HART's integrity and the way they walk, and getting the contract of firms that live, experienced people like us can be trusted to go back in and show the light, to give medicine inside, and we can be trusted, and this type of model and this format works. So that's why it's so meaningful that that HART can expand and get into all the institutions, because you know what? I remember when Cesar went in there, it's like, I got my state card. I got my keys. I got my chip. I don't need no more escort, and like just the light in his face, like that validates that the CRM Ironwood, that they trust Cesar, and that, you know, Ironwood, I think we kind of know that CRM touching on one of us, it's so big, you know. I was found suitable is because it was the missing link that I needed to actually hold myself accountable, to really look at my insight and remorse. And one of the things is the YOP program is to awaken my service. To really be accountable is to be a service of people. And that's what I do.
Dominique, been home just a minute, breathing in this good freedom air. And you just went back into Lancaster this week. For you, what does it mean to see this program expanded?
It's just like Edwin was saying, it's very validating for us, able to turn what we've done and what we've gone through and actually be able to package it and deliver it to every man and woman throughout California state prisons. You know, it just is that opportunity to redeem ourselves and also inspire hope with other people. You know, this is our chance. We always talk about the amends process and atoning for the things that we've done in our past. And this right here, we are actually going and touching the minds and hearts of the men in there. This right here will affect not only the community at those institutions, but also the families that they're in contact with. Oftentimes, I remember at one of the ARC graduations I attended, a mother came and she was saying how the things that her son was learning in the ARC programming was things that he was relaying to her and the rest of the family, and it was also having an effect on them. So we're not just touching the men inside, we're also touching the families that are connected to them. You know, so it is impactful, meaningful, profound, all the terminologies and phrases you could use. That means that it is something that is great. And I just feel blessed to be part of this. And I'm very excited to see the more great works that we could do with this expansion.
Excuse me, if I may, I would like to interject real quick and ask Sam a question.
Absolutely.
You're the one who founded this team and came up with this concept. How does it feel to see it going from what it was in the beginning when it was just you, Jacob, Cesar, Jamel Carter, and a few other people, to see it go from that to what it's going to become over the course of the next month or two?
Wow. For me, it's the last couple of months have been surreal, and mainly because knowing that both the state legislature and the governor and everyone has seen both the data and what we've been able to do as people that were once incarcerated is huge. And so I know the work that we do as an organization and as a community has a direct impact on shrinking our carceral system. So for me, it means a great deal. It means that people that were once like me, that didn't know how to figure out how to program or work on themselves, will actually have people like us guiding them, mentoring them, and coaching them to understand that do the internal work so that you can return home, heal your families, make your families whole again, heal your communities and make your communities whole again. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing. I want to just share one other thing. Right before this morning, I had a court hearing one of the young kids that I've been mentoring since 2016, and he'll be coming home. And literally, when we're in the hearing and the judge says he will be coming home, his mom breaks down the hearing and like, I don't think it was a dry eye in the courthouse. And it just makes me think about all the moms and dads and sons and daughters and people and families that will be able to be reunited with family members as they learn how to traverse this system, but most importantly, heal themselves. Thank you for that question too, Mark. That was a great question. And I want to ask Dominique something. I want to jump to Dominique for a second. You participated and graduated from the Hope and Redemption program during COVID. What did it mean for you to be able to continue programming even during lockdown? Because we know everyone wasn't able to be able to offer programming, but we continue. What did it mean for you to be able to continue programming even during a pandemic when you were locked down most of the time?
Well, there was a couple things. One, when it showed the dedication of ARC and what they were doing, they didn't allow COVID or a pandemic and all these different restrictions to essentially quit on providing us the tools to help us with our change and transformation. So for me, it gave me something to focus on, because there was a lot of more cell time that we had during this COVID restricted time in prison. And often, even I've seen within myself that if you don't constantly practice something, if you're not constantly exposed to something, it leaves room for other things to take those spaces. So with the correspondence, I was able to continue to pick up where I left off with the groups. And with that, I was able to still hold our own groups, although limited in numbers, at the tables within the day rooms. So it was like one of those things that we became, just as ARC was creative in trying to continue the rehabilitative programs. We were creative with taking what you gave us during these times and create our own small groups, even sometimes an event with our neighbors, going over the curriculums and the corresponding packets that you sent us for all those months. So it was something that was meaningful for us, and we showed that ARC is serious about what they do, and they're not going to let a pandemic or statewide restrictions get in the way of helping us in the time that we needed them the most.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dominique. And that's part of why it's so important to have people that have actually lived through the experience of being incarcerated lead in this work. Not to say no one else can do it, but I really believe when we're talking about shrinking the system, changing the system, making it more humane, those of us that have suffered through incarceration, understand what it's needed to change it, should be able to lead. And I say that and want to share this one thing. When Dominique talked about, we sent in both mail-in packets, but we also created 55-minute mediums continuously running down with the programs and walking people through what they need to do in order to do that internal work to be able to heal themselves, but also to be able to come home. Want to jump to a couple of questions in the chat real quick. One, there was a question, will we be at Pleasant Valley? Jacob, will we be at Pleasant Valley? Jacob leads this team. Will we be at Pleasant Valley?
Yes, we will be at Pleasant Valley. We'll be at every institution in the state except for Susanville and Tracy, because those two are closing, but everywhere else we will have a presence.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And then there was another question in the chat. I want to know our thoughts about the recent New York Times op-ed piece by JP Morgan Freeman, basically. And basically what that op-ed was, JP Morgan is saying that companies need to hire formerly incarcerated people. I don't think that's rhetoric. I think we're in a transition where people are starting to understand, because a person makes a bad choice and ends up incarcerated does not mean that that's a bad person. And second chances are something that we believe in, as long as the person is willing to do all the work that is necessary, hold themselves accountable, work to improve themselves, demonstrate remorse, and be ready to come back home and heal our communities. So I don't think it's rhetoric, and it gives me a great deal of hope, because what that does, that creates more pathways for people to be able to thrive and live the type of life that they've dreamed of. Edwin, want to come to you with a question. just recently you went and got certified to go back into CDCR institutions. It was your first time back inside since you were released. How did it feel?
Oh, that's a loaded question. How do I feel? First of all, one thing I did notice is, with trauma sticks to our body, so a lot of tightness and a lot of it was trying to spill out. Thanks to my coping skills and my tools I picked up, I was able to suit it in a way. But going back inside, wow. I know that there was something that somebody told me, and I hold on to it. And he said one of the biggest mistakes is while we're inside, we forget that there is the outside, and while outside, we forget that they're inside. So me being able to go back just helps me keep my promise that I made to our folks inside, that I will never forget their suffering. So for me to go back, it just shows them, you know what, they're not forgotten, that we are thinking about them, that we are going back. And after while I was driving home, I had to actually pull over and just take a deep breath and be mindful of the moment, how rich I felt, just and gratitude of the moment I'm being of service. And also I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing a calling. So that's probably the loaded answer that I can actually explain to.
And I want to pivot back. So thank you, Edwin. Now I want to pivot back to you, Dominique, because you just went in for the first time. I didn't even realize it was your first time going back in. And then when you came in the office and you were talking to me, I noticed, I was like, is this your first time going back in? And you said, yeah. For you, what was it? I mean, what did it feel like? What was it like?
It was quite an experience. It's again, only been out for 5 months, and to go back in, everything was fresh. The experience of being in prison blues, the experience of being on the yard, and everything that I saw the men inside go through. I remember that very vividly. It was just moments ago, essentially. But as I was sitting in the room speaking to the men, and they was also surprised that I've only been out for 5 months and I'm back. But it was that very humbling experience, because being out, even for 5 months, there's a lot of things that you can, things out here that can consume you. You could begin to assimilate into the world, and begin to see the things that's in your past become smaller in that rearview mirror. But being there was a very humbling experience, and it motivated me even further in the work that I'm doing and everything else I'm striving for. Because the men in there was, when they saw me, they saw hope. With the 50 years to life sentence, serve 16 years and be back 5 months after parole, being paroled. To them, it was amazed and shocked by it, and I realized a lot that I carried. So I take that with me and I internalize that. And it's just a very humbling experience, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, even though the man there was like grateful and thankful that I was there to see them and help them. But they was also a great help in assisting me and keeping me focused on the work that I do and the path that I'm on. But yeah, it was an emotional experience for me, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you, Dominique. I want to go to the chat again one more time. The last comment by Tony Green, if you could highlight that. And I want to go to you, Jacob. And why I want to go to you. Back in 2017, what was the conversation you and I had? And this is a conversation a lot of people know about. I've known Jacob for many, many years while inside. This guy's amazing, but I just wanted, what was the conversation you and I had?
So in 2017, when all this first started, Sam and I had a conversation about going back in, and I told him that I did not want to ever go back into prison. And it was a blessing that he talked me into going back in, because I believe I found my life's purpose, and it's a great feeling to go inside and know that you're making an impact on someone else's life as well as my own.
Thank you, Jacob. And I remember I asked you, I said, just go in this one time. If it's not for you, I'll respect that. I said, but let's go in this one time together and see if this is something that you're interested in. And I remember not even halfway through the day, you pulled me to the side and was like, I'm in. And now you lead the team. And just want to put it out there that I'm super grateful to have a leader like you leading other leaders, because all of these gentlemen on the screen and the women that we'll be talking about shortly are leaders. So this one is for Jacob and Mark. As of now, Hope and Redemption, and I just touched on this, as of now, Hope and Redemption is an all-male team. Technically it's not, but I'll get into that in a minute. Technically it's not. But right now, as we speak, Hope and Redemption is an all-male team. Can we expect to see our first woman Hope and Redemption life coach in this expansion?
I started off and say, like you, I don't believe that the Hope team is all males. I believe there's some females on there, but some women on there. I apologize, but as far as the hiring, yes, there is going to be definitely some women hired on the Hope team as part of the expansion. We're not just a male. We don't deal with just males. We deal with anyone that's incarcerated. So that includes women and young people. So we also have younger people on the Hope team that a lot of people don't talk about. That goes in the DJJ that I consider on the Hope team. So
Yes, and I'll just add. I know we're hiring 3 in a relatively short period. So that'll be 3 more life coaches we're bringing on. And I don't think a lot of people understand that women are one of the fastest growing demographics within our carceral system. So we want to ensure that we're providing services for them, and ARC is definitely going to do that.
Thank you, Mark. And for our non-binary population, please apply. This is not limited with, we know that we have different demographics inside our institutions. We want to make sure that we're able to provide coaching, mentorship, and guidance to everyone that's currently incarcerated. So if you're non-binary, you have some facilitating skills, please apply and know that you will be seriously considered. These positions have not been fully filled yet. They will be. So please apply if you're interested. Dominique, Cesar, I want to come to you first and then Dominique. What does this, so how does Hope and Redemption going statewide affect both the Anti-Recidivism Coalition's organization and these 31 institutions? What do you see? How do you see the effect being, or what the effect will be?
Well, it's gonna affect them tremendously because it's gonna be a lot of moving, a lot of willing and dealing between the institutions and ARC. I mean, you might even think about opening up that other side of the floor that we're in to make room for all these new people that are going to come inside and be part of the staff at ARC, because it's going to be a lot of people with this expansion. And, I think it's just going to be a great thing. And one of the main things that we look forward to is continue to lead by example from whoever we hire or whoever on the team. Continue by example, maintain your integrity, and then keep pushing, keep doing the work.
Thank you. I just want to point out, and well, actually, I'll come to the chat in just a second. I want to come back to you, Dominique. How do you see what is going to be the effect on both ARC as an organization and these 31 prisons?
So with anything, this is a great change that's happening. So with every great change, there's going to be challenges and some difficulties, but within that, it's going to be opportunity for growth. So what it's going to do for the team is essentially going to enhance every member on the Hope and Redemption team. To step our game up, so to speak. And with that, it's going to be a great benefit for those that we are serving on the inside. And so there are some places and institutions that are not fully familiar and aware of ARC and all the things that we do. So now we have the opportunity to go in every institution, and the institution that we already been into, we've seen the effects. We've seen the measurable change that happens on those facilities. And now we have the great opportunity to have those same measurable effects throughout every institution and essentially replicate the success that we have on these yards and these prisons now be duplicated throughout California. So that is what I'm seeing, what I'm expecting. And it's just exciting going forward in the prospects of this expansion.
Thank you, Dominique. Mark, I want to ask you. So I want to ask you the same question, but kind of add a twist to it. So, what do you think? How does HART going statewide impact both ARC and these 31 institutions? But add in your thoughts on continuity of care.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Sam. I would say that it definitely allows us to offer continuity of care. What I mean about that, if we have an individual at Pelican Bay State Prison who's transferring to Lancaster, I can contact Dominique, and let him know this HART student is on his way. Please get him into class. There's no interruption whatsoever to his rehabilitative programming. And I think that will be extremely beneficial. In addition to, Dominique can help him give a warm handoff to our life coaches on the streets when he paroles. So he's always been in constant contact with ARC. If he needs a ride home, we'll provide that. If he needs a job opportunity, we'll provide that. If he needs a life coach, therapy, or anything else, we can ensure that he's tapping into those services relatively quickly. And that's kind of our aftercare component. But it can make sure that these men and women are always plugged into services, and that enhances public safety because that's going to reduce recidivism.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Want to jump to the chat. A couple of questions that came up, want to answer, but I want to, I'm going to pivot to Jacob after I answer this question. There's a question in the chat from Bank of America. Stephanie, we love Bank of America, huge supporter, and we're a huge fan. When it comes to individuals most receptive to the Hope and Redemption outreach, rehabilitation opportunities, do you have any data on who they are, and what they're going through? We do have data where we're actually expanding that data. And what they're going through is literally, to be quite honest, and this is why the concept came up. With the exception of the pandemic, because none of us went, except for, wait a minute, let me take that back. The first life coaches for the Hope and Redemption team, and Mark and Joseph were in Pelican Bay. None of us went through a pandemic while incarcerated. Dominique did, Edwin did, and so they experienced that pandemic, and we didn't. So with the exception of that, we understand by our lived experience as being life prisoners what it's like. And from what I understand, and please, any one of you add into this if I'm incorrect, from what I've seen and the people that I've talked to, everyone that's incarcerated is receptive. Sometimes some people will admit that they're not ready, but they're still receptive to what we're saying and what we're offering. If any one of you want to add on, just feel free to go ahead and add on to that.
Yeah, I'd like to add on, Sam. So when the messenger is someone that has essentially walked in their shoes, they are receptive, they are listening. Now there's different degrees to how receptive they are to this. Some are receptive to the point where they internalize the things that we are delivering to them, and it helps them figure out some stuff about themselves where they get to the point where you can see measurable change within them. Then you have on the other end of the spectrum, those that are listening, they are receptive to it. The seeds are planted, but yet it hasn't came into fruition where there's a change in behavior, a change in thought patterns. But nevertheless, I have seen men that have taken the ARC programs at the beginning when they once started, still kept with the same line of behavior for a certain amount of time. But then at the end, say, of a year, you began to see some of the things that they were exposed to in the ARC programming beginning to like not only be receptive but resonating, and they began to have a different shift in perspectives and views, and ultimately beliefs and actions.
Thank you, Dominique.
Sam, can I also add that I believe that I believe that a lot of this also has to do with value, people value in their lives. There's no question that things have changed. The system has changed. It's not as violent as it used to be. It's more psychological because of the pandemic and being locked away and not having interaction with people, not being able to socialize in a system that has minimum socialization. But I think that the value that is being placed on the lives in there by the community, and what I mean by that is that by the community invested in the Hope and Redemption team and the rehabilitative program, that shows the people inside that the community still cares about them and that they are part of the community, which gives them hope that they can come out in the community and become community members that are productive. And I think that is a driving force within CDCR amongst the men and women that are incarcerated. And I think that it will continue to be a driving force for people to change their lives and become productive citizens, as long as the community continues to invest in their rehabilitation and show them that they are part of the community in their care.
Thank you, Jacob. I want to stay with you, Jacob. I want to ask you, and this was in the chat, and I think it's a great question. That's why sometimes I jump to the chat to ask some of these questions. And this question was, could you describe the day-to-day, can we hear what does a HART do day to day, a typical day inside prison? So you pull up, you're in the parking lot at 7:30, 7:45. What's the rest of your day look like? And I want you to also describe the varying places like Calipat and Pelican Bay, temperatures and all those things, because they play a role in the impact of the life coaches that are going inside, please.
So I'll start off by saying that every institution is autonomous, meaning that each institution runs a little bit differently. Some runs the program at night and some run it during the day. And that has to do with levels, because we're on different levels, mostly maximum securities, but we're also on medium securities and lower levels. It also has to do with a lot of the weather, because like places like Ironwood and Calipat and Centinela is in the desert, where weather is extreme, whether it's extremely hot or extremely cold. We also have the dynamic of Pelican Bay, where it's constantly raining. So we have a plethora of different weathers, situations that we have to deal with. But a typical day is like, if the program is starting at 8 o'clock, like I did in Kern, I would get to the institution around 7:30. Make sure I have all my paperwork in order, make sure I have my lesson plan down. By 7:45, I'm in the CRM's office. The CRM stands for the Community Resource Manager. I'm in his office getting the rosters for the day, talking to him about any things that may have came up, any security concerns or any augmentation of the program. By 8 o'clock, I'm in the classroom or in the gym or in the chapel and receiving students from the housing units. Upon entering, the students will sign in and we start the class. We usually started with a check-in, and then we go into whatever lesson plan there is. We do that 3 times a day. So it'll be a class from 8 to 10, and then we'll have another class from 10 to 12. And then we'll take a short lunch break. Usually during that time, the 2 life coaches that are working together usually converse with each other and talk about any things that they've seen, any progress someone has made. We pay attention to see if anybody is withdrawn from the class, because to us, that's a sign that there's an issue. We see who's participating frequently and who's taking a leadership role, just in case we need a facilitator or something. We run the last class from 1 to 3. In that class, we make sure, because that class it's a long day. So in that class, we make sure that we're very interactive with everyone, so we don't want to lose the energy of earlier in the day. After that class, we go back to the CRM's office, turn in our roster, talk to him about any changes to the program for the next day, and then you go into the hotel and do your data entry, your reports, and your attendance. So that's a quick synopsis of a day of someone going through the HART program, one of the life coaches going through the HART program at the various institutions.
Say it. Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. You're talking, Cesar, but you just did it too. So I also want to share that many of our life coaches travel, and so they are actually living on the road. For instance, both Mark and Joseph, who provide programming in Pelican Bay, live up in Crescent City, although it's not really their home, but for 3 months, every cycle of programming, they're up there every day going into Pelican Bay, and then they come home and spend time with their families. And then we have other life coaches that will drive out to, say, Calipat and live in a hotel Monday through Thursday while providing programming to Calipat, Centinels, and some of these further out institutions. And so it's also a sacrifice. I want to tip my hat to every life coach that's doing this and that will be doing this. This is not something that is easy. There are some institutions where you can go up and back every day and be home, but there are also some institutions that they can't. Want to jump in the chat one more time. And the question was asked, are we in juvenile facilities? So we also are in the Department of Juvenile Justice. There are 4 facilities in California. That's Pine Grove, OH, Chad, and Ventura. And we have life coaches in each one of those facilities also for the Hope and Redemption team. We also provide mentoring in LA County, Yolo County, and Sacramento in the juvenile facilities. Earlier I mentioned in the show that I was at a court hearing. That's for one of the young men that I mentor in a juvenile facility. We're also in Camp Scott and Scudder, the girls' camp. Norma Kupian leads that. And so based on the ability to be able to provide these services, we continue to try to go into every facility. But we also have limits, and limits are based on both the person power and funding. So sadly, we're not in every facility throughout all 58 counties, but we're working to get there. And then hopefully we can go state to state. If not this organization, then maybe we replicate it and other people can lead it, as long as we're providing the services and help for people that are incarcerated to reduce the number of people that are inside, shrink our carceral system, and provide healing and guidance to come home and never go back into an institution.
And Sam, just as a note, we're also in both of the women facilities, institutions within California, CCWF and CIM.
Right. Absolutely. I want to definitely shout out Norma Kupian, who leads our women who go into CIW, CCWF, and soon Folsom. So we have not forgotten about any of our people that are incarcerated. We're always trying to figure out ways to continue to provide support, hope, and redemption to everyone that's currently incarcerated, and then provide supportive services. There's Norma. She's listening. Maybe we send Norma a link and have her join today. So I want to ask a question. I want to jump to you, Edwin. What do you think? What are the implications of this expansion for rehabilitative programming throughout the country? What do you think the implications of this particular programming throughout the country? What do you think the ramifications and implications are?
Oh, wow. Infinite. I mean, the possibilities of spreading and following this model. And I want to highlight again of the voices of system impacted lived experienced people. I mean, I met a lot of organizations that constantly want to voice that, you know what, as participants, you guys are clients and we want to uplift you guys' voice. And this type of model actually practice that. This is actually walking the walk. If you want to showcase, lived experienced people actually that walk the journey and bled and crawled and got out of it and found some medicine out of it. This is a type of model that you can actually showcase throughout the United States, and we've seen it, how impactful it is, how productive it is, and how meaningful it is. So I think the possibilities is information is it's really, really something that we need to actually highlight throughout the United States.
Thank you, Edwin. Am I still echoing, Viv? Just want to make sure that I don't have echo on my end. I had 2 mics going at one time. My apologies to our audience. Thank you for the answer, Edwin. Truly, again, these are some truly amazing individuals that are on this panel. Please continue to ask questions and we will answer them. Mark, what do you think the implications of this expansion are for rehabilitative programming throughout this country?
I believe it'll be increased public safety. If we can replicate and expand these programs like we're doing right now in the state of California, that's going to increase public safety because reentry begins on the inside. We can't wait till when an individual is paroled and then start providing services. We need to provide those services when our community members are still incarcerated. So when they come home, they can come home healthy and whole, ready to reintegrate into society. So at the end of the day, I believe this will increase and enhance public safety.
Thank you, Mark. Cesar, want to chime in on what do you think the implications are of this statewide what are the implications on it nationally or countrywide?
Oh, it will be amazing. It would be amazing to have this kind of programming throughout the country. It will change so many lives. It will, there will not be so many victims. I think this program will be very beneficial throughout the country. Edwin already said it, and Mark. It's just our own, like, that's the structure on ARC, public safety. Want to make sure that when our system impact people come home, that they don't create no more victims. And I believe bringing this kind of programming up and down the country, man, it'll make this world a better place. I can tell you that much.
Thank you, Cesar. Dominique, you want to weigh in on that question? What do you think the implications are of just statewide expansion nationally?
Nationally, I think I think there'll be a culture shift if this was able to go nationally. The amazing things that we've seen that happen in the institution that ARC has a presence on, it's very impactful. So to have this to go nationally, it will be a culture shift in how prisons are conducted, the rehabilitative culture that happens within those institutions. As Mark mentioned, this will enhance public safety. That the changes in ensuring public safety doesn't occur when the person is released from prison, but while he was in prison, how are we preparing him for him to be reintroduced into society? And if you have a culture that is fostering rehabilitation, that is fostering a change and growth and transformation, and we allow this to go nationally, this will have major implications throughout every city, every state, and because we're seeing the measurable effects that is having here in California in the prison that we're in. So I can only just imagine the impact it will be statewide or countrywide.
Thank you, Dominique. Want to switch and answer a question in our chat. They're often by Robin Myers-Lee. There are often very long waiting lists for any type of class in prison. How will you decide who will get into each class? How many students are there in each class? So each class has a maximum capacity of 30 people. And so if you say on 1 yard during a cycle, there's capacity for 90 people to be in 3 different classes. So 30 people in one class, 30 people in another class, 30 people in a third class. So there's capacity for 90 people to be going through this. The 10-week courses plus a graduation. And so we're able to put quite a few people through as long as people stay in and don't transfer anything like that. And we've been working within the system to be able to make sure that those classes remain full and people have an opportunity. But the other thing is what Mark mentioned earlier. If a person starts a class, and we did not have this ability before, if a person starts a class and transfers to a different institution that we don't have programming in, that'd be lost. And so now if a person transfers to any institution, we simply call our life coach that's in that institution and say, hey, Cesar Zuniga just arrived. He was on class number 8. Can you get him in the class? So we believe that we have a formula based on our experience, both as people who've been incarcerated, but also people that have been providing programming now for quite some time inside the system, understand of how to overcome the difficulties and the barriers we often face in programming. Jacob, heavy question for you. How do we make sure this program flourishes and doesn't fall under its own weight? And I'm gonna come to you next, Mark, so you better get ready. It's a heavy question.
I think we do that by hiring people with integrity, people who are committed to the job and believe in what they're doing. I think one of the things that is most important about this expansion, not only in California but throughout the state, is the professionalizing of the credible messenger. Here's a career path for people who have a value in their experience, and I think giving them an opportunity to make that into a career and helping other people's lives, I think that will play a major role in just helping people realize the value of their experience. And so back to the original question, I just want to throw that in from the last question. But back to the original question, I think it all comes down to hiring the right people and making sure we're tapping into people with integrity, people that believes in the mission, and whose heart in what they is in what they do, which is helping people.
And I would echo that. I know ARC is going to great lengths already to ensure that we hire people who are just as passionate about the work as we are. And in addition to, there's probably around 800 miles between Donovan and Pelican Bay. ARC has already developed a model where it supports its life coaches wherever they're at. So I think that'll be incredibly important. So I think this program is going to flourish, even when you have people that spread out, because at the end of the day, when we go into these remote institutions, we go in there, with the weight of this entire organization behind us. People from ARC, including Sam and Jacob and my fellow team members, routinely check on me to see how I'm doing and check on the program to make sure that the program itself is healthy. So as long as we continue to do those things, which I know we will, this program will flourish.
Thank you, Mark. For all of those that are watching, that have loved ones inside, how can their loved ones inside get connected to participate in the HART program? Jacob, Cesar, and then Mark.
At most institutions, well, at all institutions, our programs are voluntary. We ask that they put in a Form 22 or inmate request or whatever name they give into the documents nowadays to the CRM's office requesting to be put on the waiting list. We do not show favoritism here at ARC in no form or fashion. We don't expedite people in classes or anything like that. So usually what happens is they'll get put on the wait list and we take them off the waiting list as they are put on.
I think another things for the new institutions that we're going to serve, putting out those sign sheets in the day rooms where the men, and just making sure that we get one man for every group. A lot of times we seem to get one guy in 3 groups, and that's taken from 2 others. So just making sure that we have available space for everyone, and I think we'll be okay.
And if I can add, in our program, we do not exclude anyone and we do not show anyone favoritism. So as Jacob was saying, as they come on the waiting list, as soon as we get to that spot in the waiting list, they are put in the program.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Cesar and Jacob. This time show has flown by. I have one more question. Let's see if we could get through this question rather quickly. So can our community inside, and this is what I'm gonna run to everybody except you, Edwin. So to our community inside, can they expect to see any changes in programming with this new expansion? Jacob?
I think there'll be different curriculums. We're working on relationship-based curriculum. We're also working on boundaries and financial literacy. We're trying to make a total package so when people get out there, be more prepared. So just the changing of curriculum. Besides that, I think most of the stuff will be pretty familiar.
Mark?
I'll add the continuity of care, which we already talked about. They'll be able to go to any prison in the state and receive these same services. And just to reiterate what Jacob was saying, we're always trying to identify the needs of those who we serve. And when we identify those needs, we develop curriculum for that because that's part of their healing process. And that's what ensures that they will not go back once they come home.
Cesar? Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, but just going back in with Dominique a couple of days ago, back into Lancaster, hearing the men's what their needs were, understanding why they needed. A lot of them were asking Dominique and I, they wanted something that they could take out into the street, and we were telling them, well, of course, every single programming that we are bringing you into the institution, it's not for you to maneuver around this yard. It's for you to be a productive member of society. And they understood that. A lot of them think that it's self-help and it's for them there and for the board. And we tell them, no, that it's to prepare you, but it's also the main focus is for you to be prepared. So when you come home and you don't recidivate, you can have somewhere to go to like ARC and be productive, and give back and be of service.
Thank you, Cesar. Dominique.
Yes, I think the changes that they'll see is what the team has realized with the expansion. As you say, that there's going to be a lot that's going to be going on within the next month or so, actually a few months. And so what we realized that we need to sharpen even more certain aspects of ourselves. And with that, it will come to great benefit with the guys that we serve. As Jacob mentioned, that there's other curriculums that we're working on that the team members have identified that these need to be given to the men in there, so they could be, we could have like a wraparound approach or holistically provide services that touch on all these major issues that we from experience have realized that needs to be addressed. Financial literacy, especially with times now, with employment being difficult, with expenses at an all-time high, inflation is constantly increasing. So men need to have some financial literacy about themselves and as far as relationship as well. So those are the things that we're going to be introducing with what we already have been doing. But those, it's going to be some of the changes, the continuity, like Mark mentioned, is going to still remain consistent. In every institution, you'll be have the opportunity to receive the same services as any other.
Thank you, Dominique. Well, sadly, we're at time. I want to continue this, but we're at time. And so I want to ask each of you to share some closing thoughts with our audience. Please take a minute. Closing thoughts for our audience, Jacob.
I just want to thank everyone for listening in, and just know that we're doing this for the right reasons. It's not about us; it's about the people inside, and we're providing programs so they can get better, be productive members of society. It's about accountability, responsibility, and being productive. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Edwin, last thoughts for our audience.
Just want to say it's an honor being able to highlight and uplift HART, because you guys played a big, crucial role in my life. And I used to remember the conversation inside is not about I want to be Mike, is I want to be part of the HART. And when Cesar and Jamil used to walk in, I could see a paparazzi always around them. So it's just part of my spirituality is part of the mindset is sympathetic joy, and I'm just more than happy and glee that this type of program is going to go in each institution. So.
Hey, thank you, Edwin. So just so Cesar, please don't let it go to Jamil's head. I don't want to be like Mike. I want to be like Jamil now. So Michael Jordan, you got competition now. Cesar, last thoughts for our audience?
Just thank you for tuning in, and remember, a lot of times, our message doesn't get all the way up north, some of these prisons. And if you have any family members, friends, let them know that we're coming. We're coming. Solano, up there in Beckerville, all those prisons, we're coming. We'll be there. Just be on the lookout for the HART team.
Thank you, Cesar. Dominique, last thoughts for our audience.
Yes. Just know that, as Cesar mentioned, we are coming to every institution. For those that are at institutions where programming is scarce, or it feels like the programs are not essentially, getting to the men and the women, just know that we are coming. We are bringing our expertise. We are bringing our passion, our love, our heart to this, and we will try to reach and touch as many men and women as possible. And thank you for your support.
Thank you, Dominique. And last but definitely not least, Mark, last thoughts for our audience.
I would like to thank our audience for tuning in. I would also like to say that if you provide the men, women, and in some cases, children who are in our carceral system, if you provide them with hope, a redemption is not only possible, is very probable. And that's what we're going to try and bring into these institutions.
Thank you, Mark. And for our audience, just want to close out. We call this program the Hope and Redemption Team because when we enter prison for so long, many people like us that were sentenced to life, we had no hope of going home. And so literally being able to see people like us walk back in after spending decades inside, there's instant hope. And then we demonstrate by both the way we live our lives on the outside and the program that we bring in that redemption is possible. So that's why we say the Hope and Redemption Team, because I believe, as our entire team and our organization believe, that all people are redeemable regardless of what they've done. If given the opportunity, resources, and the understanding of that, we have to hold ourselves accountable for our actions, but also do the internal work that brings us back to where we should be or should have been our entire lives. With that said, I want to again thank these incredible men, human beings that have been on here. Shout out again to Norma and Pamela. You all are amazing. We love you all, and we will continue to push forward to make our system more humane, to shrink it, and to make it more humane so that when people come home, they're healthy, whole, and able to make our communities healthy, whole also. So the role that we play is actually one that enhances public safety as formerly incarcerated leaders in this space. We'll be back August 20th. Until then, take care, God bless, and we'll see you then.